Hello everybody, I'm Miko, a tour guide from Osaka, Japan. Today, I want to take you to Tekijuku in the city center of Osaka that was founded by Ogata Koan in 1838 at the end of Edo Period. Let's go to Tekijuku. Now, I arrived at Tekijuku, a private school of Rangaku, or Dutch studies. Ran is land in Holland, and Gaku means studies. This house was designated as a national important cultural asset in 1964, and it's currently owned, managed, and run by Osaka University. This guy, Ogata Koan, founded this private school Tekijuku. Koan was a medical doctor, teacher, and a translator. He also worked very hard for the vaccination program for the pandemic of cholera and smallpox. Koan bought this house from a famous Osaka merchant, Tennojiya. So that's why this is a typical style of merchant house, a shop in the front with a residence in the back. Please always remember, you have to take off your shoes at the entrance in a typical Japanese traditional house. Koan was born in 1810 in Ashimori, today's Okayama Prefecture, further west than Osaka. He was the son of samurai family and first trained to become a samurai, but he chose to pursue medicine due to his own poor health. Moreover, cholera pandemic spread in Japan when he was 13 years old. Later, he wrote a letter to his father saying that he's firmly determined to become a doctor to save a lot of lives. Koan started to learn Dutch studies here in Osaka when he was 17 years old, under Nakatenyu. He continued his study in Edo, today's Tokyo, and Nagasaki, in southern part of Japan. Afterwards, Koan came back to Osaka and opened Tekijuku in 1838. It was named after one of his pen names, Teki-Teki-Sai. This used to be used as a reception room to welcome guests. Now, let me explain the historical background. Tokugawa government started in 1603 in today's Tokyo, and the isolation policy was adopted in 1639. At that time, Tokugawa shogunate didn't want Christianity to come in. And among all the Western countries, only Dutch people were allowed as trading partners because they were purely business-minded, with no intent of spreading Christianity. Only one port, Nagasaki, was open for trading at that time. This is a family room. This lady, Yae, 12 years younger than Koan, got married with him in 1838, the same year when the school was founded. Yae's father, Okugawa Hyaki, also a medical doctor, and Koan studied together when they were young. And Hyaki even sponsored Koan's study in Nagasaki. Koan and Yae raised 13 children, although 4 of them died very young. Yae looked after the students and patients. She was loved by the students just like their mother. Thanks to Yae's devoted assistance on top of Koan's hard work, he was able to achieve so many things. This room is kitchen and dining, and the ceiling of the kitchen is very high so that the smoke and hot air from cooking can be escaped to avoid any risks of fires. This is the typical traditional style of merchant's house. Efficient way of using the space under the stairs. These are the drawers. It's very steep, almost 60 to 70 degrees. It is said that there was no such notion of evacuation drills. It's dangerous for today's people. I wanted to experience how Edo people climbed up and down here in kimono, because they only wore kimono, traditional Japanese clothes, in Edo period. Handrail is a must. This room used to be used for maidservants. In 1774, Tahen Anatomia, a medical book on human anatomy in Dutch language, was translated into Japanese by Sugita Genpaku, Maeno Ryotaku, and their associates. This book became a trigger, and people started to get interested in Western medicine. Moreover, Siebold, a German medical doctor, came to Japan in 1823 and opened his school of Western medicine, Tekijuku, in Nagasaki. It is said that he was misunderstood as a Dutch guy, and he was allowed to come in and stayed here in Japan. Many Japanese studied there, and they were influenced a lot by Siebold. This is Zufu room. Zufu is the name of a Dutch-Japanese dictionary. The important part of the education at this school was reading of Dutch books. It was very precious and rare, and there was only one Zufu dictionary. Young men from the high teen to the early 20s burned the midnight oil, scrambling over the dictionary. Students worked independently, since, according to the samurai code, it was considered dishonorable to ask others for help. In the early 19th century, many foreign ships came to the Sea of Japan and Pacific Ocean near Japan. Japanese were very much worried about any possible attacks and wanted to learn Western studies, including Western medicine, military study, physics, astronomy, and others. On top of that, Opium War broke out in China in 1840. Britain defeated China, and that caused a huge shock in Japan. This used to be the students' room. Many enthusiastic and intellectually curious young men came to Tekijuku from all over Japan. More than 1,000 students in total studied here for 24 years from the foundation in 1838 up until 1862, when Ogata was invited to Edo to work as the government doctor. Some students commuted from home, while others boarded here at this house. These are the sword marks. It is said that some students were from samurai families and they carried swords. When those hot-blooded, passionate young men felt stressful under a lot of pressure of study, they hit this central pillar with their swords. The mid-19th century was the critical time in Japanese history. Japan was mainly divided into two groups. One defended the cause of the Tokugawa shogunate, and the other was more revolutionary with the side of the emperor. The most important student of Ogata was Fukuzawa Yukichi, who was the great educator. He founded Keio University, and his face is printed on 10,000 yen banknote. Omura Masujiro, another student from Tekijuku, supported the restoration of the imperial monarchy. Omura himself was a medical doctor and became a brilliant military strategist and worked for the fall of Tokugawa shogunate. Nagayo Sensei was the first director of the Sanitary Affairs Bureau at the Home Ministry, who established the foundations of public health administration. Ogata Koreyoshi, the second son of Ogata Koan, was appointed as the director of Osaka Temporary Hospital in 1869 that later became Osaka University Medical School.